avoiding common mistakes. Mistake number 1 is a problem with commas. You may remember from another lesson that a comma is needed when you start a sentence with a dependent clause. If you write this sentence, because Jake is clumsy in the kitchen, Emily doesn't want her help. It is incorrect because you are missing a comma. In addition, if the dependent clause follows the independent clause, no comma is needed. Emily doesn't want her help because Jake is clumsy in the kitchen. This is incorrect. Do not put a comma before subordinating conjunctions. Mistake number 2, you used the wrong conjunction. Because I'm not good at dancing, I like dancing. In this example, the punctuation looks correct. However, this is wrong because the meaning is incorrect. Because shows cause and effect. These two clauses do not have a cause and effect relationship. The correct conjunction is, although I'm not good at dancing, I like it. Here is another example where the wrong conjunction is used. Before I woke up, I brushed my teeth. This does not make sense because in this sentence, this action happens first, and this action happens second. Unless you brush your teeth while you are sleeping, this isn't true. For the same reason, this sentence is also incorrect. After I brushed my teeth, I woke up. When you use the conjunction after, the first action should come immediately after this word. When you use before, the second action should come immediately after this word. Mistake number 3, you do not have a complete clause. I like the food Emily cooks because delicious. This is incorrect. Remember that after subordinating conjunction, you should use a complete clause. Here we have a complete clause, but this is not a clause because you do not have a subject and a verb. It is correct to say, I like the food Emily cooks because it's delicious. Now there is a subject and a verb in the dependent clause. Mistake number 4, you have a fragment. In this example, we have an independent clause. Emily won't ask Jake to help her cook in the future. But the dependent clause is not a complete sentence unless Jake takes a cooking class. This clause cannot stand alone. This is called a fragment. It is just a small piece of a sentence. To fix this sentence, remove the period. Emily won't ask Jake to help her cook in the future unless Jake takes a cooking class. Mistake number 5, the period. Emily won't ask Jake to help her cook in the future unless Jake takes a cooking class. Mistake number 5, you have an extra conjunction. Here we have 2 independent clauses. Emily is a good cook, Jake is not. You know that you can combine them into a compound sentence like this. Emily is a good cook, but Jake is not. Or you can form a complex sentence. Although Emily is a good cook, Jake is not. You may wonder if we can combine these to say, although Emily is a good cook, but Jake is not. The answer is no. This is incorrect. When you use an adverb clause, the independent clause should not start with a coordinating conjunction. Mistake number 6. A subordinating conjunction is not a transition. Another common mistake is for learners to use a subordinating conjunction as a transition. It is incorrect to say, Jake put a pie in the oven after the pie shrunk, because after is not a transition. You could put a transition here. After that is a transition. But after is a subordinating conjunction. Do not put a comma after a subordinating conjunction. Emily didn't want Jake to help, although Jake wanted to help. This is also incorrect for the same reason. You may put a transition here instead. Or you could say it like this. Emily didn't want Jake to help, although Jake wanted to help.
Avoiding common mistakes with adverb clauses. Guided practice. In this video, we'll do guided practice together to find common mistakes with adverb clauses. In the last video, you saw these 6 common mistakes. Let's review them. The most common mistake is with commas. They may be missing or extra. Let's remember the rules. If the adverb clause comes at the end, no comma. If it comes first, use a comma. Jake wants to help because she's a good friend. What's wrong? It's this extra comma. Because she's a good friend, Jake wants to help. What's wrong here? We need a comma. Now, don't forget some exceptions to the normal rules. With whereas and while used to directly contrast or tell the difference between two things, we always use a comma before the adverb clause. And when the adverb clause interrupts the independent clause like this, we need 2 commas. The second common mistake is choosing the wrong conjunction. So think, what's the conjunction's job? Did you choose well? These are the jobs that we explored in this course. So think, what's the conjunction's job? Did you choose well? These are the jobs that we explored in this course. The third mistake is with incomplete clauses. Remember, all clauses need a subject-verb group. Santa helped us to remember that in a previous video. The clause needs a subject and verb so that complete. We have a subject and a verb in the independent clause, but the adverb clause that comes with so that only has an adjective, complete. We need a subject and a verb like it can be to make this clause complete. Next, remember that adjective clauses are not sentences. Jake wants to help, period, because she's a good friend. Here, we have a subject and a verb that make the independent clause. Here, we have a subordinating conjunction and a subject and verb. This is a dependent clause. This cannot stand alone as a sentence, just as Emily couldn't do a headstand alone without a wall. To fix this, put the clauses into one sentence together. Extra conjunctions are another common problem. With an adjective clause sentence, don't start an independent clause with a coordinating conjunction. Those are words such as for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. Since Emily Emily's a sweet person. She wants to help Jake feel confident. This is correct. However, since Emily's a sweet person and she wants to help Jake feel confident, is incorrect. Finally, sometimes people confuse transitions and subordinating conjunctions. These words are transitions. They usually come at the beginning of a sentence and we use a comma directly after them. Here, the comma is in the correct place after the dependent clause. However, here, there's a comma after although, as if it's a transition and not a conjunction. This is wrong. The dependent clause. However, here, there's a comma after although, as if it's a transition and not a conjunction. This is wrong. Here are all the common mistakes. If you want to try to decide if your sentence is correct, you can use this checklist to help you. It's useful for writing also. Here's a sentence. Although she really wanted to help Emily with the dinner party, but Jake was not helpful at all. Let's look first at the commas. Here's a comma, and it's in the correct place. Next, let's look at the subordinating conjunction. Although is used here, is it an unexpected result? Well, wanting to help though you're actually not helpful is unexpected, so this conjunction was chosen correctly. Now, do you see any incomplete clauses? Here are the subject-verb groups, and they're all part of one sentence. No incomplete clauses. Is there a sentence that's a fragment? Well, here's one sentence, and it has a dependent and independent clause. That's complete. It's not a fragment. Finally, is there an extra conjunction? Here's our subordinating conjunction at the start of the adjective clause. And let's look at the start of the independent clause. Here, there's a coordinating conjunction, but this should not be here. Let's take it out to say, although she really wanted to help Emily with the dinner party, Jake was not helpful at all. We've found the mistake. Okay, now you're ready to practice on your own. Doing independent practice with error correction will familiarize you with the common mistakes that people make. The more you think deeply and analyze these mistakes, the less likely you are to make them in your real life. Also, this type of practice really helps you to be able to edit or fix your own writing. Now, it's time to practice.